Good afternoon and welcome back to Snetterton. We're here for round two of the Ferrari Challenge UK. Ahead of us, 30 minutes of qualifying to set the grid for this afternoon's race one. Let's then take a look at this 2.9-mile track awaiting us. Well, here we go then. It's the Snetterton 300 circuit. 2.9, well, let's call it 3 miles, 12 turns, 7 right, 5 left. It blends a challenging and complex layout with a lot of fast straights as well. Makes it quite a unique challenge. Situated on the A11, northeast of Thetford. We're about 19 miles southwest of the Norwich city centre here at the circuit. Designed by Jonathan Palmer, the circuit boss, with many of its corner names taking after motorsport legends. We have the Senna Straight, Wilson Corner, Palmer, Agostini, Hamilton, Williams, Brundle, Nelson, Murray's. They're all in there, and we'll go through them all as we get these first cars out on track. My name is Harry Benjamin. I'll be guiding you through all the coverage this weekend. Alongside me is Kieran McGinley. Down in the pit lane will be Dave Richardson. And Kieran, well, first time this year back at Snetterton for the Ferrari Challenge UK. It's going to be an interesting challenge for these drivers. We've had 2 practice sessions, of course, a little bit truncated in practice 1, but enough to get some decent mileage out on track. Yeah,
absolutely, and a very good afternoon to everybody. Hopefully those clouds stay grey and don't do anything else. But yes, we're back here in Snetterton, and we're a great circuit to go racing at. Wildly different, I would say, from Alton Park last time out, and well, taking us through the lap then here at Snetterton.
Yes, it's Jonathan Satchel in the car number 7 on the run down then into turn 1. We're on the centre straight. Chuck the car into Riches on your right, hug the apex, that's the racing line. Bit dangerous, well, not dangerous, but bit dicey for cars coming out of the pit lane. That brings you on the run down then to the hairpin, the Wilson hairpin, named after the late IndyCar racer Justin Wilson. Keep it nice and tight on exit, easy on the throttle, clout the curve a little bit, but not too much. And this brings you across to Palmer, which will be a left-hander, keeping it nice and tight. Carry as much speed through the corner as you can. A little bit of curb on the exit, but don't go too far. Track limits being watched like a hawk down to Agostini and into Hamilton straight after that as well. We saw a few drivers being caught out here spinning in practice. That's another area where track limits is being watched as we make our way through Hamilton into Oggies as well, which is where we saw a bit of a spin and oil leak earlier on in practice through and then the approach to Williams, which will bring us on to the second straight, the Bentley straight. Nice long run down heading eastwards. Very apt as we are in the East Anglian region of the United Kingdom, reaching top speeds here, heading down in these V8 engine turbocharged Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. Try and spot the braking zone correctly, bring it into the left-right chicane of Brundle and Nelson again. Track limits being watched there on the exit. Satchel keeps it nice and tidy on this lap, and that brings you through Bomb Hole onto the right-hander there. A little bit of curb on the right, pitches the car up ever so slightly and down into Coram in the penultimate corner here. It's just a sort of slight long right-hander which brings you into the quick left. So very quick change of positioning for the car through Murray's, and before you know it, you're back onto the Senna straight. Pit lane entry to your right, and if you keep on going, you'll cross the checkered flag and complete a lap of this Snetterton circuit. Well, I said Dave Richardson was down in the pit lane, and here he is.
Oh, Harry, can I just say what an absolutely fantastic track description that was. You could almost be a racing driver. In fact, both of you, Harry and Kieran, up there in the comms booth. They, of course, will be bringing all the action from qualifying to us live. I really do feel like this is the calm before the storm, because the pit lane is so quiet, and in just a few moments from now, it's going to roar with the sound of those fantastic Ferrari Challenge 488 Evo cars that will roar up this pit lane and out onto the circuit, ready to get their qualifying underway, which is going to, of course, set the grid for race number 1. Behind me, I can hear the first car approaching the lights now. Harry and Kieran, it's over to you.
Thank you, Dave. Well, Dave down in the pit lane for us throughout this qualifying session. First car out on track was Jonathan Satchel, who we rode on board with just a few moments ago. Okay, then 30 minutes underway, green flag running. It was Hans Sickens in practice 2 who was setting blistering lap times, wasn't he? Nearly a second quicker than the best second-placed man. So all eyes, I think, might well be on Hans Sickens.
Yeah, I think he's going to be definitely one to watch going into this qualifying session. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But I don't think you can rule out Lucky Kera just this yet. You know, winning both, getting pole position at Alton Park as well. So definitely one to keep your eye on there. As you said, though, Jonathan Satchel is the only car there out on circuit at the moment. But as Jonathan said, it's the calm before the storm, of course. We are waiting for those cars to get themselves out onto the circuit. And I really hope it is calm before any storm, because I'm just hoping those clouds just hold off a little bit. Oh, I see a bit of blue sky. We're okay.
We're okay. But yes, you're right. It is just Jonathan Satchel out on track in the Copa Shell class. Was fourth in that class last year. You can spot him because he's got the Italian flag adorned across that Ferrari. 4 podiums to his name out of 15 races. He is now being joined by Andrew Morrow, who makes his way out on the exit of pit lane. And here they all come as well. Paul Rogers and Jason Ambrose following him out too. Jason Ambrose losing a little bit of track time in practice 1. That put him on the back foot in practice 2 after a broken pipe in practice 1, but managing to get some fast lap times under his belt. So we'll be hoping to carry that through into qualifying then, and it will be over before we know it. This half an hour will go by like the click of a finger. Here is Andrew Morrow, who will be looking to build on that impressive performance he displayed last time around in Alton Park. Straight out the bat, his first ever race, let alone his first race in the Ferrari Challenge, his first ever race on a circuit, finishing just off the podium both times as well. Of course, it was Lucky Kera who took pole position, and with it comes a point for your championship challenge in each of the races. But Lucky Kera certainly hoping to carry that forward. I think Hans Sickens might have a word to say about that. Copa Shell as well. It was Paul Rogers who managed to take a pole position last time around, so keep an eye on him too. Paul Rogers in the number 20 Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. But first lap times being set currently, so we'll wait to see how they filter through on our timing screens.
Yeah, always a keen eye onto those timing screens just to see how close these lap times are going to be. Yeah, Hans Sickens is definitely going to be one to watch. Into the 52s earlier on in this practice session, the second practice session, I should say. 1.6 clear of Lucky Kera. But as we said in practice earlier, it's going to be, you know, one of those pinch of salt moments, because we're not necessarily knowing what sort of fuel loads the drivers were carrying, how aggressive they were into each corner. All of that doubt gets put aside now, because this is when the drivers are going to be out there on the lowest fuel possible. The car's going to be tuned in for 1 lap, and the drivers are going to give everything. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
This is when they can really rag these Ferrari 488 Challenge Evos, the 7th generation Ferrari Challenge car. Incredibly powerful, these machines, and beautiful to drive as well. You just speak to the drivers. It does what you say, what you want it to do. It's predictable, it responds nicely, and around this circuit going well at the moment. Couple of spins in practice, but as you were saying during those sessions, Kieran, that is what practice is for. Out on track at the moment, and having done their outlaps, Satchel, Morrow, Ambrose and Faisal Al-Faisal, who looking very fast off the bat in Alton Park. Couldn't quite get onto the podium, came ever so close, but returns here to the scene of, well, where he achieved his racing license and where he first took his first podium in his first Ferrari Challenge UK race. Was here in Snetterton last year. So back at a track he knows well and goes well at.
Yes, all good things, and all things that add up to a great story developing. And as we all know, when a great story develops, normally it has a pretty good ending. We'll see what happens for Faisal out there on track. He's just out there setting some outlaps, getting some heat into those tyres, getting some space out on track. And getting space out on track sounds like an easy thing to do, but honestly, no matter how many people are out on the track, no matter what the track is, it is going to be challenging, because it's such a high-speed circuit, this one. It's only covering 3 miles as well, so there's not a lot of space out there for our drivers. So trying to get that space out there, trying to get your optimum clean air that you need is not only essential, but it's going to be tough to do.
No, precisely. Now, were we in practice? Did we get down to the 151s? I think we did.
I think actually you're right.
The late 151s.
Yeah, you're right, actually, yes.
And at the moment, Jonathan Satchel with the only lap time on the board at 2:050. So still time to find, but these first exploratory laps just getting heat not only into the tyres, into the brakes, getting back and re-familiar and finding yourself, as you say, some space around this fairly short track. It's narrow in places as well, so the last thing you want to do is come across traffic, as we see Paul Hogarth just biding his time, glasses on, game face on, hoping this is his year for the Ferrari Challenge UK Championship. So far, it's not been too bad a start. Might be worth just reminding you of how the standings look at the top after Alton Park. Lucky Carer leads the way with 34 points, so he's already got a 10-point buffer to Paul Hogarth in second with 24 points. Then it's Faisal Al-Faisal with 17, Graham DeZille with 15 points. Hans Sickens has 13 points ahead of Andrew Morrow, who also has 13 points, but on countback he's in sixth. And then in Copa Shell, it's Paul Rogers who leads the way with 30 points ahead of Paul Simmerson, 25, Jason Ambrose, 23. And then it's Jonathan Satchel, Stuart Marston, Matthew Thompson and John Seal, 7th with 2 points. Those who were able to score points in Alton Park. So only one round down, but still a long way to go in this season as we start to see then times tumble. Jason Ambrose has just gone fastest with 1:59.462 ahead of Jonathan Satchel, who's got down into the 1:59s. Morrow sets his first lap time as well. Faisal straight into the 1:56s. So straight away, we're seeing some of the Trofeo Pirelli runners go right up there and nearly get on par with what we were seeing in the early stages of practice.
Yeah, we'll get closer and closer as the drivers get more and more comfortable with the cars again, and well, with those lower fuel setups, that more aggressive driving style, especially towards the end of the session. The question is, will we see a 49 today, a high 49? It's going to be tough, but I'm not going to rule it out entirely. We'll just have to all wait and see what happens in the next 22 minutes.
Absolutely. Paul Hogarth still in the pits, so 22 minutes to go, and doesn't seem like he's in too much of a rush at the moment, unless they were just about to get him ready. Just have a little glance down the pit lane. Can't see too much action at the moment, so potentially maybe something just delaying Hogarth, but we'll keep you abreast of that as and when we know it. At the moment, it is still Al-Faisal with the fastest lap time. We're currently watching Hans Sickens in the number 16 Ferrari Challenge UK run by H.R. Owen. Made his debut in the class in 2020, cuts across the line to start his first fastest lap. Here is Jonathan Satchel in the Italian flag liveried number 7 car, just following Ambrose around. So not leaving too much of a gap there, but very interesting. We saw this in Alton Park as well. Just some of the drivers using qualifying just to maybe have a lap or so fairly close to the car in front, just to follow their lines, see how they're going, where they're carrying maybe a bit more speed, what kind of lines they're taking, and then dropping back, and then you go for it, setting your fastest lap. So a bit of strategy coming into play.
Strategy, maybe it's mind games as well. You might want to see, how are you taking this line here, as we see there Stuart Marston leaving the garage and making his way out onto the track. See what sort of lap times he can do. I think he's going to be our 12th driver out onto the track. But there you can see the gap between Satchel and Ambrose. 9 thousandths of a second in this early part of qualifying. 54.835 for Satchel compared to a 54.844 for Ambrose. And at this early stage in qualifying, that's a very exciting prospect.
Yeah, certainly, and they're in the Copa Shell category as well, so we would imagine them to fall down the field a little bit when the Trofeo Pirelli drivers set their competitive lap times. You're right, that was Satchel coming out on track, Marston coming out on track, but also Hogarth is out on track now as well, so a little bit of a delayed start for him, but with just over 20 minutes to go of this qualifying one session. We have all cars out on track. Satchel crosses the line, 1:54.835 ahead of Ambrose, Al-Faisal, Morrow. Rogers has gotten up into 5th on his first proper lap time ahead of Simmerson. Still waiting for lap times from Sickens, Davidson, Carer, Hogarth, DeZille and Marston as well, but they'll come thick and fast in the next few minutes as what we tend to see is we get a flurry of action in maybe the next 5 to 8 minutes. Then there'll be a little bit of a lull, come back into the garage, recoup, recover, and then go again for a final hash at it when we see the proper pole times come into play. 20 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, 20 minutes to go, and at the moment then it is Satchel leading the way overall, but of course, as you said, we are expecting quicker lap times to be in on the board as this session progresses. As we're watching here, Jason Ambrose making his way towards the latter stages of the lap and making his way now on towards the centre straight and onwards then towards Riches as he'll make his way over that crest. You don't realise, actually, we sit up quite high up the commentary box. You don't realise how much of a rise that actually is coming up towards the centre straight, but chucking it in towards Riches and then making his way then up towards the hairpin of Wilson. Predicting this to be a real hot spot for action. It's a very heavy braking zone down in towards the tight right-hander. Then you're back onto the power as you make your way out of towards Palmer. So a very good overtaking opportunity for all of our drivers. You fly through the left-hander and then making your way now up towards the Agostini left-hander, which again is a corner for patience. It does get quite narrow here, and on the brakes we go in towards that left-hander. It's all about patience, getting back onto the power. You don't want to go too early, otherwise you'll spin up those rear tyres before you make your way darting left through Hamilton and then onwards towards Oggies, where we saw that Jason Ambrose earlier this morning have that burst pipe. The circuit has since been treated, but then you make your way out of Oggies and then on your way towards Williams.
Nicely done, thanks, Kieran. I just actually noticed while you were talking through Ambrose's lap there, you talk about mind games earlier on. Ambrose has gone fastest with a 1:54.0, but on the back, on his rear wing, it says keep 200 metres back. So I wonder how effective that will be during the race. We'll wait to see, but there's a few little tidbits like that across the the Ferrari Challenge UK drivers. So Ambrose doing his bit there to chime in. As still fastest though, we're now looking at the number 77. That's Paul Simmerson, who involved in a rather big collision last time at Norton Park. Good to see him able to carry on and finish not just on the podium, but he ended up winning the race after a very long red flag period. So a nice haul of points there for Simmerson in the satin chrome blue number 77 Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo car. And where is he at the moment? He's got a 1:57.465, currently 8th fastest personal best in Sector 1. We'll wait and see how the rest of his lap goes. Sickens goes to the top with a 1:52.594, ahead of Ambrose by 1.4 seconds. But a reminder, they are in two different classes. Sickens in the Trofeo Pirelli for the more professional drivers, and Ambrose in the Coppa Shell for the newer, less experienced drivers, but doing a sterling effort so far. The next best Coppa Shell is Jonathan Satchel at the moment in 5th. So Ambrose in a Sickens and Morrow sandwich right now in 2nd. Then it's Alf Faisal in 4th, Satchel 5th, Rogers 6th, Kara 7th, Simmerson 8th, Davidson 9th, Dazil 10th, Hogarth 11th, and still waiting for a time properly from Stuart Marston.
Yeah, he's not been on the track for long, has Marston, so we're expecting a lap time soon from him. But there's Paul Rogers making his way through Murray's, and then onwards he will go then towards the start-finish line. Currently then, he's 6th fastest overall on a 55.938, and he has had quicker sectors last time, or this time around I should say. What's his most recent lap time as he makes his way towards the line? 55.166, so he has improved again, so he's getting quicker and quicker. Wasn't enough to get him up the order, but it's a quicker lap time, gets him closer to Satchel in P5.
Certainly is, though. But I'll tell you who's just crossed the line. Lucky Kira, who has gone 2nd. And he's off the pace by 1.2 seconds to Hans Sickens. So Hans Sickens with 1:52.5. Lucky Kira, the same amount of laps on the board of 1:53.8. So that's an interesting one, because we saw that in practice. Lucky Kira, it was about that gap in practice as well. And we just figured, well, that'll come down in qualifying, surely. And yes, well, we're about halfway through qualifying now, and that gap still 1.2 seconds. So actually, does Lucky Kira just not quite have the pace of Hans Sickens so far? And Sickens going masterfully well.
Yeah, well, into the only drivers into the 52s at the moment with a 52.5, compared to, as you say, Lucky Kira 53.8, and Lucky himself only 4 thousandths clear of Andrew Morrow for P2. So yeah, Lucky Kira here has got to find some pace around here. He knows it's there, and he knows it's underneath him. He's come off the back of a double win at Alton Park and pole position 2 as well at the last round. So he knows the pace is there, but for some reason it's just not quite clicking yet as we head towards the halfway stage of this first qualifying session.
Well, Hans Sickens at the moment on course to take pole position. It will be his 4th pole position if he can hold on to it in the next 15 minutes. But halfway through this qualifying session, which sets the grid for race 1 little later on this afternoon, it's Hansikens currently on provisional pole ahead of Lucky Kira, Andrew Morrow, the top 3. Then comes the first of the Copa Shell runners. It's Jason Ambrose in 4th ahead of Faisal. Then it's Paul Rogers who's just snuck up into 6th ahead of Jonathan Satchel, Simmerson, Davison and Hogarth, the top 10. Graham DeZille and Stuart Marston rounding out the 12 drivers we have this weekend for round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge UK, celebrating 30 years of the Ferrari Challenge this year. And great to see it flourishing across the globe with several continental series. Of course, we have the Ferrari Challenge UK, Ferrari Challenge North America, Ferrari Challenge Europe, and of course across the Asia-Pacific regions too. And a little bit of work there and chat being done with Graham DeZille in the pit lane, I should say, in the commentary box. We're the ones in the commentary box, not Graham DeZille, although he's more than welcome. But I think he'd rather be out on the track trying to improve his lap time at the moment, because he's only in 11th, so he's well off the pace currently. But Andrew Morrow certainly on the pace, currently in 3rd, so he looks like he's made a nice step. Lucky Kira has gotten a bit closer now to Hansikens, just under a second, so he has closed that lap time down, but he's still not in the 152s. 152.5 for Sickens, a 153.5 for Kira.
Yeah, something's not quite clicking for Lucky Kira at the moment, but, you know, there's still 13.5 minutes and take nothing away from Hansikens, by the way. That mid-52 is the quickest lap we've seen so far today, so he really is on a mission at the moment, and, well, we'll have to wait and see if that 52.5 is going to be enough, as we do see Graham DeZille rejoin this qualifying session, making his way through Riches and up towards Wilson. DeZille, 11th fastest overall with a 2:01.5. So he'll be hoping in these next sort of 13 minutes he can break into those, break under the 2-minute barrier and just make that progress towards a higher grid position. As we see there, that's Andrew Morrow, currently 3rd fastest in this qualifying session.
Yeah, just having a debrief there with his engineer and a bit of a chat. And this is about the time there where we do get a little bit of a lull. We're seeing a few cars coming into the pits if they're not already in the pit lane. So they've had half the session already just to get out, set their first banker laps, come back in, make a few tweaks and adjustments if they can, before they get ready to try and carry through some more lap time in the closing stages. But Graham DeZille back out on track, trying to improve his time, as you say, 2:01 at the moment. He'll need to find quite a bit of time to get on the pace with his fellow Trofeo Pirelli runners. But I'm still really impressed by Jason Ambrose. He's still up there in 4th in amongst the Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Andrew Morrow 3rd, Jason Ambrose 4th, then Faisal. So that's a really good lap time, certainly a good banker lap time from Jason Ambrose, as we have a look at Stuart Marston, who's currently last of the runners, but work being done on that car in the pit lane currently.
Yeah, it's well, last lap time 2:03.7, which is not anywhere near the lap times we were seeing from him in practice earlier on. So a couple of issues there that need to be resolved as he's now making his way through there. And I was just having a look at his personal bests. Well, he looked like he was on a decent lap before he pulled that car into the pits. So it would have put him up the order, but for whatever reason, he's decided to bring that in on a fast lap and have a chat with his engineers about something. Well, clearly something wasn't quite right. Whether something went wrong in the final sector or whether he just decided that something's not quite right here, I need to head back into the pit lanes to have a little bit of a chat. Either way, he's brought that car in, and there is Jonathan Satchel at the moment, P8 overall with a 57.129. But it's getting pretty close in that midfield, I have to say. When you get to about 8th place and higher, it's a 10th of a second between each driver, if that, Harry.
Absolutely, just highlighting how competitive the Ferrari Challenge UK is in 2022. A really stellar grid of 12 drivers fighting it out, two different classes, of course, but certainly being able to intertwine and get amongst it. Lucky Kira, though, still with time to find 10 minutes or so on the clock for qualifying 1 here at Snetterton for round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge UK. Hansikens currently with provisional pole, 9/10 clear at the moment of Lucky Kira. Then comes Andrew Morrow and Jason Ambrose, the top Copa Shell runner, but in amongst it in the Trofeo Pirelli class in 4th overall, but that would give him pole in class. The next best Copa Shell is Paul Rogers, who was finding a bit of time, but as you say, he's ever so close to the back of Paul Hogarth as well. Just under a tenth of a second between those two in 6th and 7th. So you're right, Kieran. It is tight as Angie Morrow just having a look over the data and perhaps being shown a video of his onboard just to see if he's taking the ideal racing line. It's interesting during the race on part, you could see into the pit lane some of the engineers with a live feed of their drivers on board camera, being able to feed back to the driver instantly what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, where they can find time just by watching it on their iPad. Very impressive.
It's very impressive, as Dezil has actually just gone 3rd fastest now.
There we go.
It's a 53.535, puts him now onto that 2nd row, 3rd place for him.
And Hans Sickens with 152.5 still, but Lucky Kira has gone faster. He's still not in the 52s though, 153.0 this time, so he's gone from a second to now being half a second back. So he is finding that time, Lucky Kira, but you wonder if he's finding time. Lucky Hans Sickens still in the pits, is he just going to be able to find another second as Paul Hogarth gets a little bit squirrely on exit there?
Yeah, just a little bit squirrely, that's for sure. But no, you're absolutely right. You know, is it a case of how much more performance is there to unlock? Oh, that's someone off. That's
Dezil.
That is Dezil. So he's just set his personal best and he's found himself off into the grass.
Well, he's able to keep it running, and it looks like he's just perhaps broken a bit late or gone wide. He's rejoining it carefully, but he'll have a lot of muck and dirt on those tyres now, so we'll either come back into the pits or spend maybe a lap or so just trying to clean up his tyres, but he will certainly be a little bit more relieved now. As you say, he has gotten up into 3rd in class and overall with a 153.535 on his 5th lap, which is how many laps he's done. So actually, yes, you're right. If he just pushed it that a bit too far and tried it again and gone wide, but keeps it going.
It seemed like it was on the exit of Palmer, perhaps, that something didn't go quite right and found himself onto the grass. Of course, we only joined in at the end of that one. In fact, we might have a little bit of a replay here. The back of... Oh, there we go.
Oh.
So he has lost it somewhere. Is that mid-corner, I wonder, then? Going in towards Palmer, then. That looks like that's what's happened.
Quite possibly. So he's lost it, but he's kept it going. So no worries about any stoppages. Green flag is still flying. 7.5 minutes on the clock for qualifying 1, as we get a little look into one of the Ferrari Challenge cars. That's Paul Rogers. They're currently 2nd in class in Copa Shell, 8th overall. And you're right, that midfield pack is so competitive. It's so tight. One small mistake can cost you quite a few positions.
Yeah, it can. As we watch Jonathan Satchell then tackle his way through. Oh, he's run a bit deep, actually, into the grass and manages to keep it out of any trouble. That's at Oggies as he makes his way now up towards Williams. So just maybe a little bit too hot in towards Oggies then, and just, unfortunately, found his way onto the grass, but no harm, no foul. He's managed to get back onto the tarmac, out of Williams and onto the Bentley straight.
Yeah, nice view of that from our commentary box as well. We can see that. We've got a nice view of the majority of the track, you have to say, as we're up high at the end of the pit lane here at Snetterton. It's a pleasure to have you along wherever you are joining us from. This is round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge UK. Qualifying 1 today. The next 6 minutes and 19 seconds will decide the grid for this afternoon's race 1. We then do it all over again on Sunday, where we have another qualifying session ahead of another race. So it's a really nicely packed schedule here for round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge. Here's Dave Davidson and his 2022 debut in the Ferrari Challenge, the number 93 all grey Stratstone Manchester-backed Ferrari Challenge UK car, making his way through nicely at the moment, currently 11th. So just been slowly picking away across the weekend, practice 1 and 2, just finding more and more time, getting up to speed with these cars. Hans Sickens still topping the times. He hasn't come out in a while, actually. In fact, most of the runners have all pitted, apart from Simmerson, Davidson and Marston. We're currently watching Davidson out on track with just under 5.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, that normally means it's going to be a 1-lap heroic drive from the majority of the field to see what they can do as a last attempt to get themselves up the order, which should provide us with a bit of action towards the end of this qualifying session. Of course, it's all going to be about making sure you're that last car over the line before the checkered flag falls, because all eyes will be on you. You'll know what to do up ahead, as we see, well, we see anyway, up in the commentary box. That's the number 6 of Paul Hogarth making his way out onto the track once again and ready to start a new flying lap. And, well, if we're looking at an outlap of about 2.5 minutes, he might have time for 2 laps there.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, Jonathan Satchel has just climbed out of his car, so I have a feeling he might be calling it a day there if he's getting out of his car at this stage. He's currently 9th overall at the moment. That would be 3rd in class if it stays as it does. So I wonder, just keeping an eye on the pit lane, doors open, cars stopped, so hopefully we'll get that last lap dash, but we'll have to wait and see. In Norton Park, they called it a day a little bit early in qualifying, so hopefully they don't do that here. But Hans Sickens still fastest as we watch the number 15 Ferrari Challenge car of Stuart Marston in that blue and fluorescent green livery, making its way round. And currently 11th in the times. But Hans Sickens still with that 152.5 leading the way. Then it's Lucky Kira, Graham Brazil, Andrew Morrow, Jason Ambrose, the top 5. Paul Hogarth, Faisal Al-Faisal, Paul Rogers, Jonathan Satchel and Paul Simmerson, the top 10. Then it's Stuart Marston and Dave Davidson, the top 12. 3.5 minutes on the clock. The sun is starting to edge through the very grey clouds, but behind them you can see the blue sky. There's Paul Simmerson, who I think has called it a day. But smile on his face, seems happy with the job he's done there. Don't know what he's quite saying there, but I'm sure it's all lovely stuff from Paul Simmerson in the top 10 at the moment.
Here comes Marston towards the line then, and let's see what he can do then as he makes his way towards the line. Is it going to be an improvement? I think that is an improvement. Yes, 57.5. He set a personal best Sector 1, Sector 2, but then Sector 3 is where it all just seemed to unwind. It was looking like it could have been a lap that challenged Simmerson then, but just at the last sector, didn't quite get hooked up right. But still, that's his personal best. 57.542 puts him 3/10 away from a top 10 placing.
Decent run there. Hogarth as well has come out again to play to try and set a final fast lap time. He's currently 6th overall, and it's so tight. That time from Jason Ambrose still upholding itself in the top 5. That'll be a mega breakthrough in only his 2nd weekend. Not that he needed a breakthrough, he was already on the podium in both races, but to get up there in amongst the Trofeo Pirelli runners, certainly impressive stuff from the London-based, or the Bath-based, from London, based driver with no previous racing experience before this year. So a career highlight being on the grid for the Ferrari Challenge UK for Ambrose, but I think that might soon be displaced if he gets this career best qualifying underway.
Yeah, if he can place himself as the highest copper shell driver in this qualifying session, that would be pretty good as well. He'll certainly drive that home to the hills, of course, in his first race of the day later on this afternoon, as we see Stuart Marston making his way through in towards Nelson, now on the short run towards Bomb Hole. That little bit of a divot in the track then, very easy for the car to bottom out there as he'll make his way towards Coram. Again, I think that's a personal best Sector 1, personal best Sector 2, so he's lighting up his own timing screens towards the end of this session. Here is Stuart Marston as he makes his way out of Murray's and on towards the centre straight. And if he times this right, he will get one more flying lap if he wants it, as he makes his way towards the start-finish line. What's this lap time going to be? It's a 56.621. It keeps him in 11th place, but yeah, still getting closer and closer to Simmerson up ahead.
I think he's losing time in that final sector compared to the cars in front of him, but certainly improving with every lap is Stuart Marston. I think he'll just be pleased to be getting a lot of running under his belt. Of course, this is his debut year, never raced before now, so every lap certainly counts for him. Just out on track, Hogarth has crossed the line and stayed in 6th. He will get another go at it if he wants, but there are only 3 cars out on track, so Hogarth, Marston and Davidson still running out on track at the moment. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get that last lap battle coming out for pole, which looks like it's going the way of Hans Sickens with just a matter of seconds on the clock as we continue to follow the number 15 of Stuart Marston in the Maranello Sales backed Ferrari Challenge UK Cup. And as the clock counts down, the checkered flag is out, the red light goes on at the end of the pit lane, so we can see the end of these laps from Dave Davidson and Stuart Marston, but Marston not improving in Sector 1 or Sector 2 of his previous best, so I don't think we're going to see too much improvement there. Certainly no one going to take away pole position from Hans Sickens, his first in 2022. He will start race 1 from pole position for Hans Sickens, just ahead of Lucky Kira and Graham DeZille, who will round out the top 3. And in the end, Lucky Kira just about half a second off the pace. So I think he'll be buoyed by that improvement, because it was looking like Hans Sickens was going to run away with that by nearly 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, and that does size up a great race later on, because it did look like Lucky Kira was just piecing together lap after lap, getting quicker and quicker. If he can take that momentum with him into this afternoon's first race, then he could be looking at trying to take that possession away from Hans Sickens, going in towards Riches and Wilson for the very first time. But of course, unfortunately, Harry, we have to play a bit of a waiting game before that happens.
We certainly do, but don't miss any of the racing action wherever you are. Make sure you're following the Ferrari Races social media channel for all the details on how you can watch the live racing action. It'll be on the Ferrari YouTube channel too for the live stream, so do join us for the race, which will get going a little later on this afternoon, and I will be here for that alongside Kieran and Dave. It will be 3:35 local time from Snetterton here in the East Anglian region of the United Kingdom, which is home this weekend for round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge UK. But as we see Dave Davidson make his way slowly back into the pit lane, we've got a brilliant view from the commentary box here of the scrutineering that the runners are now making their way to, just to be weighed and check everything is above board. But Hans Sickens there with a masterful lap time, half a second clear to take his first pole in 2022 ahead of Lucky Kira, Graham DeZille, Morrow, Ambrose. Ambrose was able to stay 5th in the end, and he will take his first ever pole in the Coppershell class. So really good run there from Jason Ambrose, who only a matter of hours ago was worried because he wasn't going to get that much track running in because of the leaking pump, or the leaking pipe that he had in practice 1. That set him out for a bit, and then practice 2 he had to focus on the action that he missed in practice 1. So impressive recovery there. Very
impressive, and I have to say as well, it's a great job by his mechanics and the Ferrari mechanics down there as well to get that car running again, and also running it at a point where he's the highest placed Coppershell driver on the grid, which is absolutely fantastic, starting 5th overall. Can't wait to see how he gets on later on today.
Certainly is. Well, we can take a look back at some of the qualifying action. Well, really all the moves were made in the first half of qualifying, the first 15 minutes of this 30-minute session. A bit of a delayed start for Paul Hogarth there, but he did get going eventually. He ended up 6th overall, but certainly Lucky Kira trying to find a bit of time along with Paul Simmerson. In fact, all of the runners, Graham DeZille found the grass at one point, but it was certainly Hans Sickens who was able to best them all, certainly putting in the laps. And in fact, he was the runner with the least amount of laps, 3 laps on the board. As Graham DeZille was spinning, Hans Sickens was setting the least amount of laps and went fastest on them. So if that doesn't rub salt into the wound of the other competitors, I don't know what will, as the sun edges through the clouds, beating down here at Snetterton on the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evos, 12 of them taking to qualifying there. Stuart Marston certainly getting in the lap time, and that was qualifying. And it was indeed Hans Sickens to take pole position ahead of Lucky Kira, Graham DeZille and Andrew Morrow, the top 4. Then 5th overall, but pole and Coppershell for Jason Ambrose. Really impressive lap time for the British racer ahead of Paul Hogarth. Faisal in 7th. I think he'll be disappointed with that run there ahead of Paul Rogers, the 2nd of the Coppershell runners, half a second back in the end from Ambrose. Then it's Satchel in 9th, and Paul Simmerson, who got out the car fairly early, but had a smile on his face, thumbs up to the camera, in 10th. Stuart Marston, who was putting in the lappage with Dave Davidson right to the very end, just getting more and more laps under their belt in their debut years in racing, in 11th. and 12th. Then down in the pits is Dave.
Well, Jason Ambrose, we saw glimpses of your talent last time out at Alton Park. Everything has absolutely come together in qualifying. Well done.
Thank you. Thanks very much. You saw glimpses of my good looks as well, which is good for everyone around here. But no, I don't. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better. We've got someone behind us. I'm feeling a lot better about it. I think I've got a lot more speed still. Actually, I think I span a couple of times this morning with a bit of bad luck with a burst exhaust radiator pipe, which put me off kilter a little bit. But I think I've got another. I think I've got another second in me. So yeah, super looking forward to it. Super looking forward to it.
Okay, the question has got to be, and it's the most stupid question in the world. You put it on. You put it on. You put it. I want more hair. You put it on pole position. You know, got to be top step of the podium. Has got to be the target, hasn't it, Jason?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I don't, then I've kind of let myself down a bit. And as my family's here, I don't want to let the family down, do I? So yeah, I just got to go for it and see how we get on. You know, it's anything can happen, but I'll just see how we get on.
Best of luck for the race, Jason.
Thanks very much. Good to see you.
So there we have it then, Jason Ambrose. What a star he is and what a star he's proving to be in the Ferrari Challenge. Trofeo Pirelli UK, he is the quickest Copa Shell driver. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Dave. Certainly echo those sentiments. And one of the nicest guys actually up and down the paddock. His family is here. And after a second place and a third place in Alton Park for round one, Ambrose hoping to do it one better and take to the top step of the podium and try and get that first win under his belt. But that is qualifying done. Lucky Kira just lacking half a second in lap time to try and best Hans Sickens. Graham DeZille was lagging behind for the majority of that session, but managed to sneak up into the top three at the very end. He'll be hoping to try and maintain that, if not do better. But it certainly is setting us up for a rather bit of tasty track action. But Ambrose, certainly, I think one of the happier drivers on this grid.
Oh, I think so. And he's, as he said, he's got his family here. He can't let them down. So
yeah, no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure. He's put that on himself now. But he's put that on himself. I'm going to leave that with him, Harry.
I'm sure he'll really appreciate that. Well, Hans Sickens does take pole position for the race one later this afternoon. Do join us for that. That will get going a little later on at about 3:35 local time. But from myself, Harry Benjamin, from Kieran McGinley and Dave Richardson, we'll see you a little later on. Bye-bye.